The numbers do not really do justice to what has happened in Pacific Palisades. I mean, from like along Sunset Boulevard in Pacific. The numbers do.
I'm about to zoom in and focus upon this car that's missing all 4 of its doors and all the glass is melted.
Not really do justice to what has happened. Pacific Palisades. I mean, from Chautauqua, like along Sunset Boulevard in Pacific Palisades, the numbers do not really do justice to what has happened in Pacific Palisades. I mean, from Chautauqua on Sunset Boulevard all the way into Palisades Village. On the north side of the street, you're looking at house after house after house that was destroyed, burned to the ground. These are the alphabet streets. Along the alphabet streets, Sunset Boulevard, every single is.
All of those cars that you just saw were all missing their glass. They all have the standard plasma fire burn color to them, a rust color along with a white powder look to them. So for the most part, maybe I'll just narrate for the rest of this to show you what it is that I was looking at, the reason I captured these clips. I mean, obviously the devastation, but you can see this on anyone's channel. I'm trying to bring you things that you're not going to see on other people's channel, the finer details that I've come to be able to notice over the past few years. Trees are still standing, structures demolished. That might have been a tree burning inside, but there's a few coming up with trees burning inside and power poles burning on the inside. And stick around, this is just getting started here.
The word war zone is such a cliche, but this does look like an area that has been bombed. What was burning overnight, and it, you know, the word war zone is such a cliche, but this does look like an area that has been bombed.
There's another reporter who uses the same exact wording.
Do not really
that this looks like it's been bombed.
Happened in Pacific Palisades. I mean, from like Sunset Boulevard in Pacific Palisades, the numbers do not really do justice to what has happened in Pacific Palisades. Chautauqua, like along Sunset Boulevard.
It's missing all 4 of its doors. There's another car coming up that's missing its hood, another one that's missing its back hatch. Regular fire doesn't burn the doors off of a vehicle. That's a plasma fire burn signature for sure. That car has all its glass missing. All of those cars have all their glass missing. Glass melts at like 2,700 degrees, way above the temperature of even jet fuel. With all the trees standing in between all of the demolished structures.
It is what I would call a catastrophic fire, unlike sort of any fire that I've seen here in many, many years. I mean, you have to go back to the early 1990s to have this kind of catastrophic fire. We also went by Palisades High School, Palisades Charter High School, which is just up the street, and we did see them to get the true scope of the devastation. It's one thing to hear 1,000 structures destroyed. It's another thing to see it and to think about each one of these homes. And we're just talking about the Palisades fire. Obviously, many more homes also destroyed in the Eaton fire in Altadena, but this is Pacific Palisades, and you know, we're finally actually seeing what was burning overnight. And it, you know, the word war zone is such a cliche, but this does look like an area that has been bombed. What was burning overnight, and it, you know, the word war zone is such a cliche, but this does look like an area that has been bombed.
All these fires out here in the city of Pasadena.
My point here is that that house is burning from the inside, not the outside. That's the case with every other house. And all of these houses are claimed to be burning because of an ember that hit them. The reason they have to say it's because an ember must have hit the house is because there's no burn line leading up to it. Now watch this telephone pole.
Is just before 11.
You can see this power pole right here. Look at this power pole right here. That is on fire. And then right here, that singed truck. And this is why we say this whole neighborhood looks like this, because when you walk, we're gonna walk here. And then right here, that singed truck. And this is why we say this whole neighborhood looks like there. And then right here, that singed truck. And this is why we say this whole neighborhood looks like this. Right here, this is Olive and Harriet Street, sorry, excuse me. So we walked, and I'm gonna stand a little bit away from that power.
She pretty much loses her ability to speak. She's walking through a wasteland and a hellscape, and she loses her ability to maintain the demeanor and her composure. She literally becomes breathless and speechless. You'll hear it in her tone, in her countenance.
Pole, just in case it does decide to go down. But Olive Avenue and Harriet Street, and if you look up Olive Avenue, it's the same as decide to go down. But Olive Avenue and Harriet Street, and if you look up Olive decide to go down. But Olive Avenue and Harriet Street, and if you look up Olive Avenue, it's the same story. If you look down Olive, and to every single direction, Harriet Street, and if you...
This appears to be a tree with a chunk missing out of it that's burning unevenly. Fire doesn't do that.
You look up Olive Avenue, it's the same story.
So what I'm showing you here is that there's multiple telephone poles around her right now from that one angle that are all burning in the same way. Not just one phone pole. There's a second one.
Harriet Street. And if you look up Olive Avenue, it's the same story. If you look down Olive, and to every single direction, it's the same site. Everywhere we look, you can turn all the way around.
That appeared to be a third one.
Everything has been destroyed by this Eaton fire. It is just incredible to see. There's nothing that has been untouched. There is nothing that's not engulfed in flame.
Notice this car is missing its back hatch, the entire back hatch, just like the 4 doors that were burned off the previous vehicle. This one has its back hatch burned off. Apparently the hood is also missing, and possibly even the engine block itself, along with all the glass melted. Make note of all those things as we look at this car.
I'm gonna walk over here because I see a man just sort of taking this all in. He's walking over there, so I don't know if he lives here, but I'm going to try and go see what he is up to. Maybe he is a resident here. You know, every once in a while we can look up and see. Maybe he is a resident here. You know, taking this all in. He's walking over there, so I don't know if he lives here, but I'm going to try and go see what he is up to. Maybe he is a resident here. You know, every once in a while we can look up and see an opening in the smoke and see the blue field never ending. It just keeps going and going and going. Now, I want to be very clear. They have shut off the power here in this area So we're trying to maneuver very carefully.
Remember that. She said the power has been shut off in this area.
That just feels never ending. It just keeps going and going and going. Now, I want to be very clear. They have shut off the power here in this area.
That means those power poles that we're seeing lighten up, along with the power lines that you see on fire, are not on fire because of the electricity that's coursing through them that powers your home. Those have all been shut off. The electricity that's coursing through the plasma, through the power poles, is the geomagnetic induction, the plasma fire electricity. It's kind of important to know that according to her, the power has all been shut off. And I think it would be apparent and obvious that the power has been shut off.
So we're trying to maneuver very carefully around some of these power lines that are strewn about on the floor. You know, I said this earlier, but we spoke to one firefighter who walked out of this street, which looks, I can only describe as being apocalyptic, because you can't even see to the end of the block. And he walked out and he said, I've never seen anything like this before in my life. There is a fire station to fight this fire. And when you walk down this street, you think it's almost as if a bomb has gone off, because there isn't one home that's left standing in the second half of this block. Not one. Not one. I mean, it really just takes your breath away as you continue to hear the explosions in the background. And I talked to you about that one man, Carl. You can see this power pole right here. Look at this power pole right here. That is on fire. And then right here, that singed truck. And this is why we say this whole neighborhood looks like this, because when you walk, we're going to walk up this street here. This is Olive and Harriet Street, excuse me. So we walk, and I'm going to stand a little bit away from that power pole just in case it does decide to go down. But Olive Avenue and Harriet Street, and if you look up Olive Avenue, it's the same story. If you look down Olive, and to every single direction, it's the same sight. Everywhere we look, you can turn all the way around, and everything has been destroyed by this Eaton fire. It is just incredible to see. There's nothing that has been untouched. There's nothing that's not engulfed.
Yet all the trees are standing.
Here, because I see a man just sort of taking this all in. He's walking over there, so I don't know if he lives here, but I'm going to try and go see what he is up to. Maybe he is a resident here. You know, every once in a while we can look all in. He's walking over there, so I don't know if he lives here, but I'm going to try and go see.
It looks like the rear driver's side rim on this car is at an angle, so either the rim melted or some part of the undercarriage melted. Maybe the rim is gone and that's just the wheel cover you see leaned up against the hub.
What he is up to. Maybe he is a resident here. You know, every once in a while we can look up and see
Here I'm showing you the front right wheel is completely gone, melted off. The glass is gone.
Michelinda separates Sierra Madre and Pacific.
And on that rear rim, the top half of the rim is melted off. The bottom half remains. Fire doesn't work that way, where it can burn one half of a rim gone and leave the other half intact. Looks like there also might have been a back hatch covering. Porsches have their engine in the rear, I believe, and that might have been the equivalent of the hood that's missing off of the back of the car. The door handles are gone, the glass is melted. The gas cap is gone. Those things don't happen in a regular fire.
Altadena, and so you're right here on the line. We can see the flames still going over here to the left. This is your Porsche right here. Right before you left, you tell me you grabbed the keys to your Porsche because you thought, well, I'm going to be back and all my things are going to be here.
Yep.
And here the keys are, and here's your license plate. That's all that's left of it.
And it's gone in a jiffy. All I have is the keys.
You can see by that front right rim where the liquefied metal ran out away from the car 5-6 feet.
You look at your washer and dryer. Your wife is starting to remember the things that you guys into it.
Oh, the small details.
You talked about the roofing. What about the roof? You said it was fireproof. So do you question what happened?
That's our question. How did it happen? Because the roof was tiled, unless the fire came from the sides.
Well, you look to the left of your home. I talked to your neighbor just did that too, and unfortunately for you, things are different.
Help. It could explain. But again, it is unexplainable. And the odd thing is that you have 2-3 houses burned, and other 2-3 houses saved. It's like hit and miss.
Yeah.
And you feel yourself like, why I was targeted? My God, why me?
Right.
You know, you start asking the houses saved. It's like hit and miss.
Yeah.
And you feel yourself like, why I was targeted? My God, why me?
Streets that are in the area and some of the homes that are currently burning as we.
Here's that hit and miss pattern that he was just describing that we've seen in many plasma fires. Again, that's why they say it must have been an ember, because there is no line of burn area leading up to the house. It did not catch fire because flame licked the side of the house. That's why they have to keep referring to embers, because there is no burn path of the fire leading up to the house. And they make this assumption that because all these houses started lighting on fire at once, there must have been a chain reaction, a daisy chain. Correlation equals causation. The first house that lit on fire caused the second and third house, and those houses caused the fourth and the fifth house, and it was all due to embers. Rather than taking into account, there's a third factor that makes all these houses light up simultaneously, and it is a form of electricity that flows through the ground and through the air and through the power lines. And that's why they all light up at the same time, and there's no burn path leading up to the house. It's not embers flying through the air. It's an invisible, smokeless fire that we call electricity.
Trying to provide and make sure that everybody was able to make it out safely. Then you have the wildfire that's burning up in the hills and the mountains here. Trying to make access from the San Fernando Valley into the Altadena area. We'll push in again on some of these other homes here. The map is saying Altadena. This could in fact be the Altadena area. I know there was some evacuation orders for all of Lock and Yacht and Flint Ridge as well. And this is burning in very close fires that are happening here in Los Angeles County. So they're going to do everything they can to protect it.
You'll see this tree is burning inside, and half of the tree split off and fell out in the road and hit this guy's hood of his car. You can see right through the middle of the tree, at the base of the tree right there. That large branch laying out in the road was attached to that tree, and because it burned on the inside and lost its structural integrity, a giant limb fell off of that tree and hit this car. They'll give you a close-up of the car here in a moment. You can see right through that tree. So we've already established enough of these patterns that it's clearly plasma fire. Fire doesn't do this. Fire burns things from the outside in, not from the inside out. Ergo, it's 100% electricity. There is no doubt about that. There is no argument to the contrary. There is only deep forms of denial.
That being Flint Ridge Country Club, so just to the north of Altadena, or the north side of Altadena, just to the south of his established, but just to give folks some.
And denial is a mental disorder that the other 7 billion people on the planet are still engaged in to this day, after 7 years of this happening all around us.
This location is what we're looking at, the live picture of homes burning, which is the location where Annie Rose Ramos is located, which is in roughly near Station 12. I have Pasadena pictures, and it looks dark. It looks like to the left side. Is that a live picture?
Yeah.
Is live Pasadena picture?
We don't need to hear that guy. See the big dent in the car? That's from that giant branch that fell from that tree. And the reason it fell from that tree, because that tree burned on the inside to such a great degree, it lost its ability to hold up that other giant limb. It split. There was a fork at the bottom of the tree right there. And half the tree fell away from the other half the tree. This tree's burning from the inside. You'll be able to see the flames jump out from the inside. None of the outer foliage is on fire. The center trunk and the center limbs are shooting flames out from the inside of the tree. This is just another example of how a house here and a house there burns, but there's no burn path along the ground between the houses that burn. So each and every house, according to the idiocy that prevails as logic and reason and the explanation that people give themselves for what we're seeing, each and every one of these houses burned because an ember touched it. Because there's no burn path leading from one house to another, it must have flown through the air, and there's another power pole burning at the bottom.
That is, of course, on fire.
And you can see right through it, just like you could the tree a second ago.
Across the street, and across the street, a small fire just started here.
And according to her, it must have been an ember that flew across the street because she cannot conceive of the electricity going through the ground and springing up through the ground, creating the fire across the street. So it must have been an ember that flew over there and started another fire.
And while you might say, that's not that much, it's really tiny, it's not that big of a deal, well, a fire like this one can then spread to a tree behind it or a bush behind it or the brush, and there it goes, another block. And that is what we have been seeing.
And you hear these newscasters keep talking about embers going up into the eaves. They keep talking about the eaves of these houses, because that's the only part where an ember could even possibly have a chance. Now this part, I zoomed in on this thing going through the air. It's probably just a drone. Probably just a drone. But there have been quite a few videos of unidentified flying objects coming out of this fire. Mr. MBB333 put out one that has been circulating as of late, that was seen on one of the mainstream news channels. This, probably just a drone. But maybe not. When I zoom back and you see the trajectory of it and how fast it's moving, I don't think it's a helicopter. But since I spotted it flying through the air, and it could be like one of these UAP dragons, these unidentified, here you go, here's the far back version up there by the live, up there by the word live, you'll see it come into view right there. It's not a helicopter. I'll show you what a helicopter looks like here in just a second. It's going downward at a pretty steep trajectory and really fast. Could have been a drone. For now, we'll just say, yeah, that was probably a drone. Someone flew their drone up to get aerial footage. But why would they be flying their drone down at that angle, at that speed? It's kind of odd. There's a chance that it's not a drone. That's the only reason I zoomed in and captured whatever that is flying through the air. It's not a piece of debris. It's not Batman. It's not a bird. It's not a plane. Here's what a helicopter looks like.
The area, and what you're seeing right now is the eastern portion of the Palisades fire. See that LA City fire helicopter is coming in for a water drop. There appears to be a home right at the top of the ridge. From this perspective, leaves the area, and what you're seeing right now is the eastern portion of the Palisades fire. See that LA City fire helicopter is coming in for a water drop. Leaves the area, and what you're seeing right now is the eastern portion of the Palisades fire. See that LA City fire helicopter is coming in for a water drop.
completely burned down over here. It doesn't even look like a home right now. You see the, watch your step again.
Again, I think on this one I'm just showing that it's burning from the inside like all the houses, not from the outside in, but from the inside out. Standard, routine, repetitive pattern in these plasma fires. Just like the trees burn on the inside, and that power pole burns on the inside, so do the houses. Thus it's coming up through the house, not an ember touching it. Here you see all the trees? Probably just blown over from the wind, that some gusts were clocked up to like 99 miles an hour, hurricane force winds. Also strongly associated with these plasma fires, what I have assumed is ionic wind or electric wind. It's an electromagnetic phenomenon. Just like those fans that you can get, that's a bladeless fan with no moving parts. It just creates wind by circulating electrons in such a way that it creates an air current. These fires are always associated with a strong wind. And it is an electrically generated wind current that is produced simultaneously along with the electrically generated fire. This guy's fence fell down. Possibly the wind, but also they show you that it's burned from the backside. Like the support structure on the bottom of the fence.
Evacuated, and then he came back in.
The support structure on the bottom of the fence got burned out. Again, not something real fire does. If real fire is going to burn the bottom supports, so much so that they can't hold the fence, it would make its way up the rest of the fence. These kind of fires burn in mysterious ways. And burn one spot 100% and the spot right next to it is completely unburned. Burn the base of the supports completely to the point where they can't even hold the fence up anymore, but not burn its way through the rest of the fence like there's an aura radiating along the ground that only goes 6 inches up.
My buddy, he's out here and he's willing to come out here and try to save the house also. You can see, I mean, it's still smoking and catching up as we're sitting here. I mean, it's just like, just any of the little wood pieces are kind of hot still. So.
Well, thanks, Jamie, for talking with us. Back work using the hose.
Folks who have small businesses on both sides of the street.
Listen to this.
That's so crazy.
Well, this building houses the Shakur Realty and Finance Company, and also statewide commercial insurance brokers, and a Theosophical Books and Library, which is right there.
The Theosophical Society, you know, like Helena Blavatsky and Tupac Shakur. It was the Shakur and the Theosophical.
Well, this building houses the Shakur Realty and Finance Company, and also statewide commercial insurance brokers, and a Theosophical Books and Library, which is right there in the corner.
And the Theosophical Society. Madame Blavatsky. Ooh, there's some woo-woo for you.
Impossible.
This is a power pole tipped over right there on fire.
At least until Thursday night, maybe even holding on till Friday.
The Theosophical Society and Shakur Real Estate Agency. I thought that was weird. How do they know that? What, did they quickly do a Google search? Probably, that's probably all they did. But it is kind of weird, since I know both of those words, and they're very obscure, very occult.
Once the smoke is gone and everything is sort of settled down, we're going to drive around our neighborhoods that are beautiful.
My point here is that power pole that's leaned over and burning, it's on fire for the same reason the other power pole was, electricity from the inside. Not a flame that crept up next to it, not an ember that touched it. If embers lit things on fire, they would light trees. They would light trees on fire as often as they light houses, but they don't.
I can't spot a single house that hasn't burned. This one right here, probably a 2-story house, completely flat. And you can see the view now going all the way down to PCH. Every single house in this area is gone. It is so devastating.
But not the trees. All of the trees in between the houses remain. So they're trying to tell you that embers started each one of these houses on fire and did not burn a path from one house to another, but flew through the air and hopscotched from one house to another, but bobbed and weaved in between the trees because the houses are so much more flammable than the trees, right? Oh no, that's right, palm fronds are far more flammable than any material of a house. They're like, oh, well, that's how we know it gets up under the eaves. You know, there's some brittle, dry wood up under the eaves. So all of these embers must be going from one house to another, sneaking up under the eaves and dodging around those dry, brittle, highly flammable palm fronds. That's it. Yeah, that's it. That's the ticket.
It is just, it's heartbreaking to see this. Every now and then you see a car drive by. Here, have burnt. I burned overnight and then hopped over down to PCH. This area, the most impacted, so we're gonna walk this way. Eddie, all the houses here have burnt. I can't spot a single house that hasn't burned. This one right here, probably a 2-story house, completely flat. And you can see the view now going all the way down to PCH. Every single house in this area is gone. It is so devastating. It is just
tree burning from the inside.
This is also from Instagram, and you can see Brother Spice did comment here that this tree was burning from the inside out. And when he rubs past it again there, you can see that it looks like the fire is coming from the inside and poking out through the sides.
One of a tree burning from the inside.
This is also from Instagram, and you can see Brother Spice did
Also, notice those trees behind him that are glowing from top to bottom. Fire doesn't do that. A fuse does that when it's overloaded with energy at the point where it's about to break, like that tree did that split in half and fell over onto that car's hood. That's a fuse that has too much current going through it, so it breaks. That's what those trees are doing. The same thing as an electrical fuse. They are charged up. That's why they're glowing red hot.
comment here that this tree was burning from the inside out. And when he rubs past it again there, you can see that it looks like the fire is coming from the inside and poking out through the sides.
And here's Mr. MB3's contribution. It's in reverse, and I slowed it down. And you can see burning power lines and burning power poles. You'll be able to see them here in a minute. He was kind of weird about his coverage, Mr. MB3. He kind of scrubbed through most of this footage and didn't actually show it. There's a power pole burning. And there's another one, but it was tipped over, but he moves past it so fast. There's some power lines on fire. And he didn't show most of this footage in normal speed. He showed part of it. And the rest of this footage that he's showing you, he didn't show it at normal speed. He scrubbed back through it so fast that I put it in 0.25 speed, and this is the best I could get to try and catch a glimpse at what it was he was showing. He didn't show all this in normal speed. He showed some. See those burning power lines? Those weren't in the video that he showed at normal speed in play. He scrubbed backwards through this shit so fast you can't see it in normal speed. So someone sent him some video that he didn't really want to show the public. He's like, let's just scrub through that. There's a power pole burning right there where all the lines come together. And the electricity is turned off, most likely. The electricity, and there's flame down on the right, on the power lines. Over on the right-hand side of the screen, you can see those power lines, either flaming or glowing red hot. Either way, it's not because an ember hit them, I assure you of that. That's what he did. He scrubbed through it that fast to where you couldn't see shit. And I was like, wait a minute. I thought I saw burning power poles in there in the video that he just played in normal speed in the forward motion. I didn't see no burning power poles or power lines. So I slowed it down, and sure enough, he's scrubbing through video that he didn't actually play. Because he doesn't want the herd to stampede. And here on Mr. MB3's thumbnail for the night, you can see these branches glowing red hot with zero flame coming out of them. You associate that red color with fire because of the flame, but there's no flame. Those are electrically charged branches that are glowing red hot with no flame. I've called this flameless forest fire a few times in the past. There's also this thing about smokeless fire, like in the religion of Islam, there's like these demons or angels, I guess depending on how they treat you, that are made out of smokeless fire. And in Christianity, you have these angels called the seraphim that are referred to as the burning ones. And in Hinduism, you have this thing called samvartaka fire, which destroys all that displeases Indra, the main god of Hinduism. So you have samvartaka fire in the three major religions. You have samvartaka fire, a fire that destroys all which displeases Indra. So this fire must have some sort of sentience or consciousness or awareness. How does it differentiate between that which displeases Indra and that which pleases Indra, and only destroys that which displeases Indra? It's under some sort of control, or it has its own consciousness. Samvartaka fire in Hinduism. In Islam, the jinn, which is where we get the word genie, and it's like a ghost, demon, angel type entity, is made out of smokeless fire, like electricity, like plasma. And in Christianity, you have the seraphim, which translates to burning ones. Just thought I'd throw that out there. Might have something to do with what we're seeing.